So 306 today we're talking about some standouts in yesterday's matchup between Vegas and Edmonton, and that was game three. And we saw a thrilling end and a shocking end of the game with Riley Smith getting a buzzer beater with 4/10 of a second left in the game. Gets the buzzer beater, and then Vegas ends up winning in a shocking win. And just felt like the game was gonna obviously go to overtime, but whatever happened happened, and now Vegas is back in the series pretty quick. And is very, very close to going to overtime. So Riley Smith, kudos to him for being able to persevere and pay attention to that last play and be able to not be worried about the clock. And he did a good job of being able to maneuver around the net because sometimes players they can get a little shot happy, and when it comes down to that point of the game, they can just try to rip a shot. But with Riley Smith, he was already in near the net. He decides to maneuver around Stuart Skinner, who was another big storyline in this game, coming in for Calvin Pickard in game three, and tries to maneuver around him, and then he ends up being able to tuck it in. It hits Leon Draisaitl's stick, deflects off the back of the net in the camera, and it comes back out quickly. So it looked like it went off the post, but it actually went in the net. Pretty crazy stuff, and it was pretty crazy to see how everything unfolded pretty fast. And I think with how Edmonton has played, they shouldn't necessarily be discouraged by this. It's just a temporary thing. And I think they still have a really good shot to go up 3-1 in the series, especially if Mark Stone isn't coming back for the next game. Obviously, he did not return for a majority of this game, and that was a big loss for Vegas. So I'd be curious to see if they get him back for next game or not. I think with Vegas right now, the situation is they played a much better game three than they did game two and game one. I think their game three was a little bit more solidified and a little bit more well-rounded than their previous ones, but at the same time, there wasn't a whole lot of shot volume. They were transitioning the puck. They were very effective transitioning the puck, and a lot of their top guys were doing that. And guys like Dorofeyev, who was back, and then Jack Eichel, of course, and then you get guys like Barbashev, and you get William Karlsson, and Mark Stone when he was playing, and even Brandon Saad fits in that mix. Nick Waugh, like some of these guys who can transition the puck with speed and pace and bring that and lug that up ice pretty quickly, I think is something that was very important to their game. And I would argue it's even more important to Vegas than to Edmonton because Edmonton, they have the ability to create chances even in zone offensively. Like they can have a broken transition play, but still end up with the puck in the O zone and still create an extended sequence. I think the thing is with Vegas is if they don't link together their transition play to their entries to their in zone offensive possessions, they have a much harder time getting going regularly. And I noticed that, especially yesterday, where they would get broken transition plays, they would enter the O zone and then they would stay on the perimeter of the O zone. So they weren't able to necessarily get high quality entries or high quality plays off the entry. And I think that was something that was a burden to them in some sense. But certainly, I was really impressed with how Vegas played overall for the most part. Would I have liked to see more shot volume? Yes, but at the same time, their transition play was a little bit better. I thought they're a little bit more fluid in terms of their movements. They were creating more odd man rushes. They were entering the middle of the ice in the offensive zone a little bit more, and they're just able to attack there more often, which is really good to see. I think when you're talking about Edmonton's style of game, like I said, they can have a broken transition play and they still find a way off the entry to make plays interior. And these are guys like Corey Perry. This could be Victor Arvidsson. This could be Trent Frederick. I think Trent Frederick does a really underrated job of this. I think it's partly to do because of his board play and how he's able to manage the contact along the board since he's so physically strong and sturdy. I think that's part of it. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl, you can't knock him off the puck. You have a little bit easier of a time trying to knock McDavid off the puck than Draisaitl, but McDavid's weapon is his speed, and McDavid can just blow past you in an instant. I think that's the thing is, especially their top players, but even their wings, like Zach Hyman's another example too, where they find ways, even if they're entering the offensive zone on the outside, they find a way to get interior and find a way to get to the middle of the ice, and they do an effective job of it. And honestly, I think they're one of the better teams in the league at doing it. Is they always find ways to be able to get middle, and even on those broken plays, those broken transition and rush sequences going up ice, they still find a way to make it look solidified and make it look well put together. And they did a great job of that yesterday. Obviously, McDavid, Draisaitl together were dynamic as it is. Power play on 5-on-5. and that's pretty prototypical with them. I think another guy that was really effective and underratedly effective throughout this game was Evander Kane. The way he was making plays, the way he was moving on and off the puck, the way he was using his roots, the way he was using his off puck play to be able to get to space better and get to space on time in the O zone. I think he looked really effective and he's been really effective up the wings for them. Has been a really nice add and has just made things look a little bit more seamless there. And there were just a lot of plays where on the Edmonton side too, where they had a high, I would say that they had a higher degree of higher quality chances. And obviously the Riley Smith one for Vegas was a crucial one at the end of the game. But with Edmonton, I think they're creating a lot more coming downhill, coming off the flanks and in high quality areas of the offensive zone. Just the way they're able to manage that tempo of the game and manage the fluidity of the game inside those scenarios is something that was really important for them and how they're able to bounce back and how they're able to potentially get a game three win. I think I don't think Edmonton should be discouraged by what they did at all because they played a really solidified game. They played all around game, and it was just they were playing very reliable hockey. It was just more a matter of they ran into a last second goal that was something that they almost stopped. Leon Draisaitl actually almost stopped it. So is what it is now. But I think moving into game four for Edmonton, they have a really, really good shot to go up 3-1 in this series. Genuinely. I think this is a series it could be relatively short, or if Vegas pushes back, it's going to be a long series. I think there's no in between. It's either going to be short or long. I would see this either going 5 games or 7. I don't think there's a possibility of it going 6 really at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out. I think Edmonton has a legitimate chance to actually win this series in 5 games, which I didn't really think about coming into this series. I thought that this would be a much longer series, but I'm not counting Vegas out. I just think that with Edmonton and how they've played over the last handful of games and how they've just continued to ramp it up, how they played, and they've gotten good goaltending in net from Pickard. They've gotten a bunch of not only scoring but also really reliable defensive play from their decor, which is really good to see. Like Wallman and Klingberg together, I think has been slowly getting better. They looked a little bit rocky early on in the start of the playoffs, but I think they've looked a little bit more comfortable together now. And then obviously you have Nurse and Bouchard. I think those two together are just really nice fits. And obviously like Ekholm up there, but I think Darnell Nurse is a really nice compliment to Evan Bouchard still. Somewhat similar in style to Matthias Ekholm, not exactly the same, but stylistically somewhat similar, you could say. I think the depth of the decor of Edmonton has been intriguing to see and how they've been able to weaponize that and the depth up front has been the major storyline for them too. Getting offense from their middle six and their bottom nine and being able to contribute in many ways outside of the score sheet, I think is really important for this group. And if they want to make a run, go back to the Stanley Cup final potentially like they did last year, they're going to have to get that scoring from all their guys and be able to rely upon all their guys to be able to score. And I think they did that throughout this game. Again, it's just more a matter of like Corey Perry had 2 goals in this game. He's been a really nice fit with Draisaitl and McDavid on the top line, 5-on-5, and really nice fit on the power play as well at the net front. I think either getting scoring from guys like that on a regular basis is just going to be hard to beat Edmonton and hard to beat them easily. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of these other series that Edmonton potentially plays in, if they end up being short series, just the way Edmonton is playing right now and the way they've continued to play.